Welcome, everyone. While we're waiting to start the podcast, just want to say hello to everyone. Thanks for taking the time to come check us out. We shall start very soon.
All right, we are live.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
All good. Thank you very much.
Good.
How was your week? All good?
Yeah, it was very good.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good week as well. Um, Actually, now that the podcast is kind of part of our routine, I'm always looking forward for the Sundays
Yeah.
to come here and spend some time with you guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
It gets hectic leading up to Sunday because we're doing all these like last minute running around things and getting everything ready, right? So
yeah,
it's like
that's right.
a surge of adrenaline.
Uh, that's right. The podcast is only around 1 hour, but it's crazy the amount of work that goes into it just to get it ready
Right.
to have some sort of structure. Come
Yeah.
here to talk with people.
Yeah.
Hello to Prettier and Snake already in the chat. We appreciate you guys taking the time to come check us out. Um, so we have quite a lot going on this podcast. I think it will make it worth your while.
Hmm.
One of the things we want to start is by mentioning the art contest, which we discussed on the previous podcast. Light, what are your updates regarding the art contest?
Okay, so initially in episode 2, we had talked about an art contest that was going to be available to the like broader community, including like the official Discord and whatnot. Unfortunately, we're going to have to now kind of backtrack and make it a guild only thing, as the mods don't want like contests being hosted on the Discord. So yeah, unfortunately, I know it sucks. It's out of our hands though. So yeah, so the art contest will be extended for another week, and it's gonna be for guildies only, just so we don't step on the toes of the mods in the other Discord, the official, unofficial Discord, or what have you. So yeah, so sorry to people who've already worked on their stuff, but we're just trying to follow the rules. So unfortunately, guildies only for the next contest as well for an Arclight booster. So guildies are going to be watching or listening to this, so you have another week to get your submissions in. If you've already submitted stuff, then you can either keep it, or if you want maybe more time to work on, whatever it is, then by all means, take another week, maybe do something else, do a couple pieces, and then see what you like more, and then submit what you think is the best one. So, yeah.
Sure. So, can you please remind us if somebody wants to send their submission, where they should be sending it to? Obviously, we can give him a couple of options, whatever you think is best for the time being.
Right. So, I mean, you could submit it to me or Spanner on Discord. Our DMs are open always. So, even if there's any concerns or any issues, you can always just message us and we'll sort you out. If not, then, the POW Twitter, even you can submit stuff through there, or Arclight Rumblings Twitter, whichever one you feel comfortable with. Discord's probably the easier one.
Right. Okay, so with that out of the way, we really hope to have a lot of interesting submissions. By the way, we were going to have special guest to evaluate the best submissions, but that also was kind of not possible to do. But we will keep striving and do our best to involve everyone in the community to make the war community a more passionate community and more engaged. But
Right.
we can only do what we can do as a guild. We just hope that everyone else follows suit. Right. The good news that we had today was that finally our guild member Snake Man got his beta access, and we thank Blizzard so very much for that, because he was starting to get to unbearable stage where our guild had to, obviously jokingly, we had to create a 24-hour cooldown for every time he mentioned beta. He had to wait for another 24 hours before.
He never abided by it, by the way. I just want to say.
No.
And Snake, I know you're in the chat, so I don't even care if you're listening to this, but even at one point he's like, I will not be talking about the beta. I'm like, well, you just talked about it, so now your timer's reset, so enjoy that.
He's already reacting to it in chat.
Yeah.
As you can see, we curated a selection of his infamous posts regarding beta. We will let you guys read it, and just so you can see what we've been going through with Snake.
This is just a small snippet, by the way. This is like that's like, you know, probably like an eighth of, not even, maybe a 20th of what the abuse we had to go through. So thanks Blizzard for finally giving beta access.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So much. We finally can now get on with it and have other discussions in our chat as well. So one of the topics for our podcast tonight, it's or morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world, is actually our friend Toasty in our guild. He sent us a message suggesting us discussing the esports subject for Arclight Rumble, and we thought it was a good idea, so we brought it in to this episode. As a matter of curiosity, the first sign of esports event was way back in the late 1971. It was held at the University of Stanford, where students had a battle in the game Space War. Believe it or not, unlike the thousands of dollars prizes we have today, the prize for the winner was a 1-year subscription in a Rolling Stone magazine. So a bit less ambitious rewards there.
Yeah.
The first the first event that really helped the esports gain momentum was in 1980, which was a competition involving Space Invaders. Sorry, Space Invaders.
Space Invaders.
Space Invaders, which obviously most of us above the age of 30 heard of it at some point or another. And believe it or not, it actually had already 10,000 participants, which for 1980 is crazy to think about these numbers. So between 71 and 80, in just 9-year span, the esports movement grew so much.
Right.
And today it is what it is. Because of that, we have made a poll to kick us off in the subject. We made a community poll asking what people think about Arclight Rumble in terms of esports potential. We should have an image popping on the screen regarding the results of that. And it is my pleasure to bring our guest today, which is Toasty. He's from our guild, and he will help us discuss the esports subject, since he has a lot of experience. Hello, Toasty, can you hear us? Hi, Toasty, go ahead.
Hello, yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Nice to be here.
Okay. We had some technical issues earlier trying to set up Toasty's audio. Everything seemed better, but can you say something again, Toasty?
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, it is a bit better
A
now.
little bit better.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, sorry for my connection. I'm
Nah,
trying my best.
it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get there eventually.
All right.
Coincidentally, you are the person that proposed the topic and also one of the most experienced to actually talk about it. So, can you actually visualize the results of the poll that we did with the community?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I actually
Okay.
closed the Twitch stream because
Oh,
I hope my my bandwidth will
no, don't worry
just,
too much about it. So,
get.
the winner here was the answer that the esports in the game will be great and will include even participation in the BlizzCon finals. And the second most voted was that it will be good but not great, but with a decent following. Lightbringer, before we bring Toasty in, do you think these results show roughly what you were expecting?
Kind of. The only thing that I see that would be maybe swapped would be the great with BlizzCon finals and good but not great, decent following. So that part of me is, I feel like those should be swapped a bit. But it's kind of on par. I mean, I don't agree with better than any other Blizzard game. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Just because, I mean, there's so many great games right now. You've got like World of Warcraft, you've got Overwatch, Hearthstone. I mean, I watch Hearthstone competitively as well, but I don't know, right? It's Blizzard's first like really real mobile game that they've developed by themselves, right? Like Diablo Immortal is kind of like a collaboration between studios, where this, as far as I know, is just being developed solely by Blizzard. So this is going to be kind of like the precedent, right? So I guess we'll kind of see what ends up happening. But it's a good guesstimate. But yeah, I think the green and the blue, probably for me, I would have thought swapped, but everything else seems pretty spot on. Yeah.
Right. So there's only about 4% of doomsayers that really think nobody will care about it.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm in the blue range there. I would think it will be good but not great with a decent following.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Same.
be surprised if there's a bit of representation in BlizzCons, if we have any further BlizzCons in the horizon.
Right.
Toasty, what about you? What is your prognostic of how esports will fare with the game in the future?
So actually, I think myself, I voted for the great following with BlizzCon finals, but I think it mostly depends on what the community is going to do. When I think back to Heroes of the Storm, um, as I remember, Blizzard wasn't gonna like create a whole esports industry around the game, but then the community started creating tournaments,
Right.
and the following was great. Then Blizzard hopped on the train and created the HGC, I believe it was called, before it finally got cut off. But yeah, I think it's gonna depend on what we as the community are gonna do with the game, if it's gonna be successful or not.
Right.
Right. So there's a couple of components that is what people perceive to be a game that is suitable to be good in terms of esports. One of them is accessibility and a high ceiling of skill for the PvP and all that. What is your perception about how accessible the game is at the moment for new players, and how much can we differentiate between the skill of the top players? Because that's what makes the esports exciting, is those little nuances, those bits of skill that make the difference between first place and second place?
Yeah, I think the accessibility is right on point. I mean, everyone can like download the game and just play a couple of rounds. It doesn't look that hard to get into. Especially like Warcraft or World of Warcraft players are going to recognize like spells like the Chain Lightning or the Blizzard, and units the like basically everyone, every leader, every every mini has been part of Warcraft or World of Warcraft,
Right.
and yeah, I think people will get an idea of the game really quick. And I think the skill ceiling, it's a very good point. Um, so
Do
from
you,
what
do
I've
you
seen,
do you
yeah, sorry.
do you realistically think that this mobile game can provide this high ceiling in terms of scope for the players, or do you think that after few months that there's really not much more going on in terms of people standing out?
I actually do think that there's gonna be a high ceiling, because like there's so much theory going into the game. Like, which leader are you going to use? Which talents? Which mini combination? How are you going to place your minis on the map? And what is the best use for your spells and minis timing wise? So there's a lot of theory that you can put into the game,
Yeah.
and I don't think that like in a couple of months people will have it all figured out. But I think it's needless to say that there's not like as much depth as other esports titles.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's fair. I think too the fact that talents play a big part too, right? So you could have a leader, but depending on what one of the three talents you have in that leader, your whole build could change or your whole strategy could change, right? So it's not
Right.
like, oh, I'm running Tyrion and he's just got this, so now my opponent knows exactly like, oh, okay, well, he's gonna run this build because that's the best build for that hero, right? So it's like, no, well, there's different talents, and then the units themselves, the mains themselves have different talents. So it's like you could see the exact same list duplicated, but if their talents are completely different, that whole army could play completely different. The whole, like, all the minis could play completely different, right? So, there's that aspect of it too.
Exactly. So obviously something else that makes a title succeed in esports is the background around the world, about previous titles associated with it, how much momentum already had going on. Obviously, Warcraft has a huge momentum, huge universe behind it, so I don't think this is going to be something that will prevent Arclight Rumble from succeed in terms of esports appeal. What do you believe in Toasty and Light? What do you guys believe will happen in terms of longevity of the game? Do you think the game will have enough staff working on it to keep the balance in check, to keep the content in check, to make sure that things don't get stale as we progress in esports? I'll start with you, Toasty, first.
Okay. So I mean, there's obviously a lot of potential. As you mentioned, the Warcraft universe is gigantic. We have not only World of Warcraft as uh, as an esports title, but also Warcraft 3. I think it has still
Yeah.
following,
Yep.
and yeah, there are still streamers, and I believe also some tournaments. Um, Obviously Hearthstone,
Right.
and so there's like, how do I put it? You have a lot of content that you can put into the game. It's not like uh, the devs have to create something new, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, Light, what's your views on this about the if longevity of the game, balance? If you think that we will have enough people maintaining it to keep any esports possibility fresh and possible.
A lot of that relies on Blizzard, right? I think that just like Trixie said, how often Blizzard balances everything is gonna be a factor, right? If they're constantly
Right.
balancing, if they're constantly balancing all the units and everything, they're kind of like observing the meta, they're kind of seeing what's going on, right? Or else you're gonna have an issue where it's like Hearthstone, right? By a week in, everyone's got their decks dialed in, and now Demon Hunter is the best, right? And the win rate is ridiculous, so they'll have to figure that out, right? And that's part of their growing pains because it's their first time doing like a mobile game, really, where like it could be competitive in that aspect, right? Where it's one-on-one kind of thing. So it really is in the ball's in Blizzard's court, right? I want to say because it depends on what they do with it, right? If they launch and this is it, they've set the parameters, this is the unit's health and attack speed or whatever, and there's no balancing, then it's hard, right? Like if there's no support for the game after it launches, which I doubt there wouldn't be support. I mean, they want this to succeed, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. So, yeah, I think it's up to Blizzard. I don't see them not doing it though. Like I think it will be balanced, especially like from what I've seen so far of the patch notes and stuff. It's something they're actively working on, not just PvP, but PvE, and we'll talk about that a bit later with the patch notes. But yeah, like they're pretty active, right? But it's still beta, so we'll see, right? But yeah, it's up to Blizzard, really.
Sure. I, for one, I'm very excited about it. I know that I will be following a lot of it if
Yeah.
any sports competition. I did the same with Hearthstone and all that. I just love it, and I think it's enough for me to be engaged, and it fits just right what I want to see in a sort of esports. For example, when I watch World of Warcraft Arena, I'll be honest, sometimes I don't know what's happening half of the time because
Yeah. It's too hectic.
it's so complex.
Yeah,
I don't know if
it's hectic. Yeah,
I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but this is how I feel.
yeah,
Toasty,
Yeah.
I don't want this to be some sort of rigid question and answer format. So, is there anything you would like to mention by yourself in terms of the way you are seeing the potential of the game in terms of esports? What have you seen so far? Are you excited to participate? And if so, how hardcore are you going to take it? Tell me a bit about it.
So I'm very excited. I'm ready to dive into the game right from the beginning. And yeah, personally, I sure hope that esports will be a thing, and I'm excited to compete in tournaments. But if I can go back like a little bit to what Light said about content updates and patches.
Right?
I wanted to make a comment on that because I think that's a very good point. From other games that I have followed, there's always maybe the danger of solving the game, right? Like
yeah,
if stats don't change, if there's nothing new implemented in the game, will eventually figure out how to perfectly counter some sort of strategy or
Exactly.
some like unit combinations. And yeah, that if that happens, I think the interest in competitive Arclight Rumble play will die very, very quickly.
yeah,
So
Exactly, 100%. So there needs to be a balance between not releasing the content too fast, otherwise the pro players don't have enough time to master it and exhibit those skills in esport competitions, which bring the hype and enthusiasm. But also, you don't want new content to take so long to come out that it starts to become boring because there's only so much you can develop in the game. before everything
Do
starts
you
to be repetitive.
Right.
do you believe there will be a conflict between like balancing PvE and PvP?
Um, I I'm not sure because the PvE campaigns, they are pretty adjusted to the units available, and it's really hard to say, to be honest. But the fact that we can mix and match so much between all the units of the different factions might make it easier to balance, because it is not very restricting what you can put in your compositions. So I think that will be 10 times easier to balance than a game like World of Warcraft, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
What about you, Toasty?
I mean, I I know from I've played like StarCraft for I don't know how many years. I put way too much time into it, and I know how hard it is to balance things. Like you can like adjust small numbers, and it has the possibility of changing everything and completely how matchups are going to play out. And so I'm not sure. I wouldn't be too quick to say it's going to be easier to balance than other games,
Mm.
but yeah, it's really we have to see how it's
Okay. All right.
going.
Brilliant. Toasty, we will move on to other subjects as well. We try to keep the podcast within a certain time, around 1 hour. So we thank you. I'm sorry that we didn't have more time to discuss this. I'm sure that we could be here for quite some time. Thank you so much for coming in, and we had a bit of problem with the audio, but guess what? We'll survived it in the end, and we got it done.
Yeah. Thanks,
So
Toasty.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, see you soon.
see you soon, and keep being a valuable member for our guild and our community. Thank you so much, Toasty.
I'm trying. Thank you.
Take care, my friend. Um, so I hope this was a valid discussion. Obviously, it is still early days to give a very well-founded opinion on it, but at least for what it concerns the three of us, it looks like there are good times ahead for the game in terms of esports.
Right.
Very closely related with the discussion is actually the units available and the
Right.
collections available for the players in the game. Uh, we will have a discussion about the collections and the benefits of narrow collections versus wide collections in the game.
Right.
We also were lucky to get the feedback of one of our guildies, Goragraph. He has actually better access, and he gave us his views about the subject of narrow versus wide minion collections.
Yeah.
Light, sorry to put you on the spot, but I would like to bring you in with your initial thoughts about advantages and disadvantages of narrow versus wide minion collections.
Right. So there's basically like two kind of camps. So I feel like at the beginning of the game, keeping your collection narrow and kind of like what I would call your main list or what you plan to progress in PvE with, it'll level faster at the beginning. Specifically, like, you know, the guys you really want. But I feel like overall, like your account level, if you want that to go up quicker, you're better off just buying a bunch of stuff, right? But then, you know, it goes back to, you know, having to grind for gold to afford those units, you know, and then now that you've bought all this stuff, getting talents for those units is now going to be really hard, right? The ones that you really want.
Right.
Because talents only unlock in the store if you have the unit. So if I have Flame Waker, then Flame Waker talents will be unlocked and they'll have a chance to show up in the store. But if I don't have Flame Waker, you won't see a Flame Waker talent in the store, right? So they're not going to offer you stuff in the store that, you know,
Before you have the unit, yeah.
Right, or else it's pointless, right?
Exactly.
So it kind of depends on what you want to do. For me, my initial strategy, I thought going into it was going to be, I'm just going to get these units that I really want and kind of level that way. And unless maybe something changes, I probably won't do that anymore, because from what it sounds like, from what Gorograph said, and someone I'll talk about a bit later, Mikey, who's like, I think currently like the highest account level person playing right now, and that kind of ties into a different conversation after, but he said basically the same thing that kind of colludes what Gorath's saying, so.
Right, exactly. So I'm just gonna read some of the feedback we got from Gora in terms of his experiences and his views on the collections. I personally, I will focus on. I hope I'm lucky enough to put my hands on Baron or Falnos at the start and build around what I think are good units to support them.
No,
but I know
they'll make you buy it because they know you want it, right?
yeah.
Like we'll give you Chalga, and we'll give you Grom. Sneed.
Yeah.
But we'll give you a pack 5 minutes in, that has Thanos or Riven there in it, yeah.
Right. But obviously at some point I will try to expand a little bit because it supports the campaign,
right,
and all that. So what Gora says here is, I posted a few days ago about hitting the wall, which did happen to a certain extent.
Yep.
I have grinded PvP for days and got another level or two on my minis. Then he said, tonight I went back and redid 2.5 zones worth of missions on different leaders with the same loadout of minis. Even just having a different leader changes things a lot. Earned some nice gold and got lucky in the store and got 2 new talents.
Right.
Now, and then this is the part that's a bit... Now that the fun period is over, I'm back to grinding more PvP to level and be able to do PvE missions. So basically, you need, to a certain extent, to keep interchanging between PvE and PvP, so they both support each other in terms of resources and progression.
Yeah.
And then he ends up by saying, the more minis you have, the faster your account level goes up.
Right.
Which in turn gives you more XP per quest. But he also says, but more minis also means that you have a harder time in PvE content to target minis you want to level, actually level. Yeah. So it pretty much corroborates what you mentioned.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that when you buy a talent for a mini, you level them up, right? So each talent you buy is an extra bonus level for that mini. So, if my abomination or whatever, my harvester is, level 5 and I see a talent for it and I buy the talent, well, now he's level 6. But that can only happen 3 times, one for each of the talents, like one for each 3 talents. Once those 3 talents are done, you can't get bonus levels for that thing anymore. As of, well, not yet anyways. Maybe in the future they'll increase it or whatever, but for now, yeah, it's only the 3 bonus levels, yeah. So it's basically why you want to get talents also, like on top of the obvious perk of having that ability for your unit. It levels them up, makes them stronger instantaneously, right? So
Real Green Gecko in chat says great info. We really hope that this will help people. Feel free to type in chats what is your initial strategy. Are you going to focus mostly on a small selection of units, try to get them at a good level to go through the first the initial content, or you are going to try to diversify from the get-go as soon as possible? What do you think will benefit you the most? So I think that pretty much covers the knowledge we have currently regarding the best strategy for narrow versus wide minion collections.
Yeah, and who knows, there might be a third option, right? There might be an option where you kind of mix a bit both, right? Maybe for a bit, maybe someone will figure out like, this zone and this zone is really hard, so you want to buy as much stuff as possible, like units wise in the store. Or maybe, okay, it's pretty easy in this zone, so maybe now it's time to narrow down, stop buying stuff, so you have a better chance of talenting up your current minis that you actually want to use, right? So I'm sure by the time the beta is over, there'll be like a whole written guide somewhere, or 5, that says, you know, oh, the optimal thing to do is this and that, and you know, use this loadout to beat this boss, and so still
Right.
early days, yeah.
I'm sure there will be guides available at some point already with some sort of walkthroughs of unit optimal units to certain bosses and all that. Uh, Snake Man in chat is saying that actually he's gonna go wide, at least in the beta stage, which is great because it will allow us. I'm sure he will be kind enough to share some of his footage with us. It
Maybe.
will allow us. It will allow us to have a view and more.
We've been picking on him, so maybe not, but
Exactly.
but beta is the time to experiment, right? You want to do all the experimenting now before official launch happens, and you know, you gotta.
Exactly. We'll have some of the lucky Australians will be our guinea pigs for our theory crafting.
Yeah.
Burn Castal, I apologize if I'm butchering your name, says in chat, I play thematically, I'm going to have a few core units that have broad appeal long before I start specializing. I need the goal to pressure, but certain units are going to be intrinsically strong for a disproportionate number of builds. Pyromancer, for instance, yes.
Right.
100%. I agree with you, and I think it's a very valid strategy, and Pyromancer is definitely very strong as it stands. So thank you very much for Goragraph and people in chat for their input, and to you as well, Light, obviously. Moving on, while we do some research for our podcast, we encounter one specific article which with a review of first impressions of the game so far.
There you go.
And Light, I know that you had a bit more time than me this week to go through this specific article and what's been discussed. Would you like to give us a head start in relation to this topic?
Right. So this article was written by Android Police. This was on May 22nd, so not too long ago, 7 days ago. Article just goes on to say basically that it's going to be, you know, pay to progress. There's lots of grinding, and that's something that I've been seeing a lot. Not just like in this article. Like this article aside, ignoring this article, people complaining about like having to grind and you know, go back and redo content and stuff like that. To me, I never really understood like the concept of like, you know, like you get a brand new game, right? You get a brand new game, and then everyone's goal is just to get to the end as quick as possible, right? Like I don't understand. Like for me, I want it to last, right? Especially like, you know, Arclight Rumble is a free to play game. Obviously, I'm gonna be buying the booster. But if I spend money on that, like with the booster and with like, you know, buying gold every week or whatever it is, like I don't want that experience to be over like in a week. I don't want to get through the entire content in like a week or a month, right? I want that to last because who knows when the next content drop is going to come, right? You don't know if they're going to release a next raid or whatever, right? But the common theme here was that, you know, progression is a pain, grinding sucks. And he states also, which is actually like an error, like it's not true, that the only way of getting gold was to beat a level.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. That's incorrect. Yes.
But he even has a screenshot of like the store where it says you get free gold. So like I don't know. Like I feel like this guy played the game for like 30 minutes and then just kind of was like, yeah, this is pay to win or pay to progress or whatever.
Yeah, and it's sad to see because it's really provides people with the wrong information. I think if you have the responsibility of providing articles like this, you should be more thorough with what you put out, and you should actually play the game long enough to rather than what it looks like a half an hour.
Yeah, and I mean he wasn't open to criticism at all. There were some comments made by I don't know who even it was because it was deleted. And And then someone else's comment was deleted as well. He's been deleting comments that kind of refute his claims, and he kind of loses it on them. I won't go too much into it, but what he's saying isn't true as far as I've seen. And I actually got in touch with Mikey, who is actually currently, as far as I know, there could be other people that are up there with him now at this point, but like his level of like gameplay has just been like through the roof. Like he's been playing nonstop.
Yeah, at least in the Discord community, he appears to be on top. We don't know what's happening with Reddit and all that, but another person who obviously closely following him is Rook, which is very advanced already in the game. But Mikey is definitely up there, if not in first place right now in terms of progression.
Yeah.
So go on.
So all Mikey has bought was the booster, and then sometimes he buys the stage bonuses, which is the gold. But he states the reason why he does that is because for the beta, he wants all the units to experiment with them, right? So he said if you're not trying to get every single unit when it pops up in the store, like basically when something popped up in the store, he would like buy it, right?
Yeah.
But he said like you can't get around the grind. Like grind is an intrinsic part of the game. I mean, you can't just stomp every single level as you play through it, and just okay, that's it, that's the game, right? Like there has to be some sort of challenge. And,
if you don't work hard to get something, you don't appreciate it. So
right.
Part of the reasons why World of Warcraft was so loved and successful in the start is because it was a bit of a grind. So when you actually get something, it feels special. And yeah.
But he's been killing it in PvP. I think he's got over 550 wins, he said, so far.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I wanted to try all the cards. But yeah, he's like, I spent 3 hours on a level because he said his strategy was off, right? And then once you get to know the AI, which he said was also very complex, like it reads what you're dropping and then like will drop accordingly. So like you really have to like kind of grasp what the AI is trying to do. Like if you play a level a couple times, you can probably try to figure out like, okay, every time I drop this, he's gonna drop like a unit to counter it. So maybe every time he drops that unit, maybe I keep that in mind and whatever. But I mean, not to imply the guy in this article that wrote the article is bad, but I mean, if you're having that much trouble on the first boss, and I've literally seen maybe one or two streamers that have had like a little bit of trouble where they've had to do the boss like twice before they finally like they get it. I don't know, like
it almost feels like he has trouble in the first bosses as a negative. I see it as a positive personally. Right. I don't want to finish the PvE content in a week. I want to be challenged, and I want to have to use my brain to actually beat certain bosses.
Right, and they require strategy, right? So I don't want to say the cliche "get good" or whatever to this guy, but I just feel like this whole article is out of base, and compared to what I've heard from the actual guy that's like max level right now, that completely contradicts what this article says. Like I don't know. I think this article is a nothing burger, to be honest with you, and I'm not concerned. Now, if I had seen an article like this, by 30 different, websites, then yeah, okay. But from what I've seen across the board, that isn't the case. This seems to be like an outlier more than anything. So,
yeah, exactly. It is what it is. I hope people can see for themselves the kind of articles that actually provide the best information for the game.
Right.
I'm loving the activity in chat. At the moment, Barncastle is saying that he doesn't want the game to become too formulaic. As I beat it and I'm done. I think nobody here wants that.
No, because what's the point? You get a game and you're done in a week, right? Okay, so how does that like promote a community, or like how does that work towards getting ready for raids or whatever, right? Like I understand at launch when we have more information about raids and it's assuming a multiplayer event, people want to rush to the end game, right? So, and I still from the very first day, Span, I don't know if you remember, but I said this game seems to be pay to progress faster, but not pay to win or pay to progress.
Yeah,
so,
I remember that.
I mean, people's tolerances to what they can't and can or cannot stand in terms of like grinding, that's up to the individual, right? So I mean, for me, if I get annoyed because I lose once on a level, okay, yeah, I'll go buy stuff from the store if I really want to, you know. But for someone like me, where like I don't care, like I'll keep bashing my head against the wall until a hole forms and my head goes through. I don't care. I'll do it, right? And I mean, the back and forth of having to do PvP to level up in PvE just seems like a natural symbiotic thing that like it makes sense, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
plus you're gonna get bored eventually of just doing single player, just doing multiplayer. So it kind of forces you in a good way, like a positive way to experience different things and then playing with other people in the community, right? So I don't know. I think this article's off base. And from what I've seen, it's an outlier. Um, I
It
just,
definitely is, but the good news is that obviously, as we mentioned before, we have no affiliation with Blizzard whatsoever. We are
right.
just two guys. We are just two guys that love the game and the universe, and we are very fortunate to be in a guild surrounded by people with the same philosophy. And we just think that the amount of positive articles we saw was like 10 to 1. So
Yeah.
you know, I hope people can actually see the game for what it is and not what. Don't let themselves get influenced by people that didn't actually even bother to play the game long enough to.
Didn't even beat the first boss because it was too hard. I don't know. I will say though, funnily enough, and this is something that we talked about before too. It's like, remember you said like the one common thing was that the art in every game for that Blizzard made was like chef's kiss. Even in
That's
that
right.
article where the guy was like crucifying the game, he still said, "Oh, the art is amazing." You know, like so that.
Yeah. Well, at least he saw that.
Yeah, yeah,
um. Uh. Very active chat at the moment. Burn Castle says again he suggests the weekly challenges, which will be something very
yeah.
good to keep the players on their toes.
Yep.
I also suggested yesterday on the official, not official Discord that we could have some sort of game mode like Hearthstone Arena, where um, every player pays certain amount of gold to get in a tournament style, and once they lose 3 times, they are out, and then they will keep accumulating wins until the maximum of 12,
Right.
and they will get a reward based on the amount of wins. And the way they build their deck, it will be like they get a choice of 3 units per each slot, and they'll pick one. So
Right.
this way you need to think about synergy on the spot with what's being offered to you. And I think it will be a sort of healthy gambling in terms of if you put a bit of gold, either you might lose a bit, or actually if you are successful, you make some gold. So it's another way for you to potentially add some more gold to your income in the game.
Right.
And it will definitely promote knowledge of the game in terms of units knowledge, how they interact with each other, and all that.
Right.
So that's great. Patch notes. We had some patch notes recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Uh,
throw them up here.
0.9.0.36189. Light. Do you have them available on your screen
Yeah.
at the moment?
Yeah, they're on the screen.
Patch notes. Give us your thoughts in these new updates. It's not that much being updated, but
There's not that
what we have
much,
at the
but
moment.
the first thing is very big. Temporarily removing Valor and talent bonus levels in PvP while they continue to build the matchmaking system. So this was something that we heard about before, and we've seen it, right? We've seen where people are stomping other people in PvP just because of the talent levels or leveling, you know, what they have.
Yeah, we spoke about it last week. Yeah.
Right. So they're aware of it, obviously, since they did this. I think it's going to be tricky for them to kind of fine tune this into something where it's balanced across the board, right? You know, we might end up seeing something where, you know, Valor won't count, or they'll remove Valor for PvP, or maybe, you know, talent bonus levels in PvP won't be a thing anymore, which makes sense to me. I feel like a unit having the talent
Right.
and not necessarily the bonus level would be a good thing, but that's something that they'd have to see on their end, and I'm sure they are looking at it, obviously, since it was the first thing in their patch notes. And then, yeah, just the standard, spells aren't doing damage to towers as intended. I saw that actually being posted in the other Discord as a bug. And then, yeah, talent renaming, tuning, and bug fixing. I think eventually, too, I think they're redoing some of the art, from what I heard, of the talents. So I think right now the talent art, I don't think a lot of it's going to be like final project or like the final bit. And yeah, dungeon relic tuning and bug fixing, which I don't know too much about, to be honest with you.
Me neither. If there's anyone in chat that knows more about dungeon relic tuning, please feel free to type it.
Yeah.
We would love to provide this information in our podcast. If not, we are happy to expand on it on next week's podcast.
Yeah.
By the way, nice to see Trixie and Colors in the chat, and a big thank you for them for what they do for the guild.
Yeah.
I think one thing. Yeah, go on.
I think this is good, right? This kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about in regards to them kind of paying attention and balancing and fixing stuff that needs to be fixed, right? So if they keep this up for balancing, like the different minis and the different leaders and talents and all that stuff, then, this is a good kind of show of what we're going to be kind of expecting, right, going forward. So
exactly, and now will be definitely better. I can see that even Snake just got this beta today, so it looks like they are keep pumping people in, which will definitely improve the matchmaking just by virtue of that.
Of all the people getting beta, he's the only person where I've been like, oh, Snake got beta today. You know how? Because he won't shut the hell up about getting beta access before he got beta access, right?
Yeah, so everyone there, make sure you flood the official Discord, and if you keep asking hard enough, I'm joking.
Yeah,
Don't do that. Don't do
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Just be patient. That's what Snake did. He was very patient, and
that's what it was.
And he happens to live in Australia, which is very helpful. Last week we have promised to talk this week a little bit about our chosen compositions for what we think it will work well in the game.
Right, not a deep dive, because things are obviously going to probably change before launch, and like I said, balancing and all that stuff, but these are just something that I personally would just have fun playing with these minis, like with these units. And obviously looking at you with all the undead stuff and sappers, I can tell it's the same thing too.
So obviously, as we mentioned, neither of us have access to beta, so this is highly speculative and highly subject to change.
Right.
It is, and I'll be honest, I'm not the person with the most knowledge in the game in terms of units. I'll try my best to research, but I still have a lot to learn. This is what, on the left side of the screen, you have Light's proposed composition at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
On the right side of the screen, you see mine. This is what we think will work well at the moment. So
at the very least, it'll be fun to play with.
Oh yes, for sure. This is kind of also a hybrid and mix of PvP to PvE. Once again, we need more knowledge, and we need to all the iterations to go through first and changes before we can provide more accurate compositions. If you are one of the lucky few in beta, and if you are lucky enough to have access to these units in the beginning, please try it out and let us know if we are just talking rubbish or if this actually works.
We're probably talking out of our ass here. Yeah, 100%.
Right. So, Light, is there any other topic that you would like to discuss before we go to the final stage of our podcast today?
Not really. We've covered a lot. We have a lot coming next week as well. Just want to reiterate again the art contests. Again, unfortunately, is going to be guild only. I know last week we had said it was going to be a community-wide thing, but unfortunately, the mods in the official Discord don't want contests being hosted there. So now they're making me backtrack on my word, and now I feel bad and guilty, and I have to say that it's going to be guild only. But it's out of our hands, unfortunately. So guildies, you have another week to fine-tune your art submissions. It can be a picture, it can be music, it can be a video, it can be of you singing, it could be, you could draw it on a paper napkin and submit it and take a photo of it and be like, this is my art. Anything really. So you have another week extra to kind of fine-tune what you want. You can make multiple pieces, and by all means you could submit multiple pieces, in the creative channel on our Discord. But when you submit to either myself or Spanner or even Colors, then make sure that you submit the one that you think you like the most, the one that you think is going to win. And it was the same thing for the meme contest too, right, Spanner? So we had lots of guys make like, I think Sneed made like 10. Sneed made like 10, and
But we still ask him to submit only one,
right,
for the sake of fairness. Obviously.
Right, yeah.
Good news even is Toasty, who was just our guest here. He will submit a story as his art submission. He already told me.
Okay.
So
and just to clarify real quick, to Trixie's question, Warcraft universe or War universe, we'd like it to be the Arclight Rumble universe. That probably, because last week was just Warcraft in general, right, Spanner? So this week let's narrow it down. This week will be just Arclight Rumble, and then
I would we would much prefer if you did if you were to make a drawing, which is only one of the different art styles,
right,
that we are accepting. We would much prefer if you did it about Baron Rivendare than about Sylvanas, because it's, in terms of context, is more appropriate to the game itself.
Plus it's Sylvanas. I mean, who wants to do art about that?
Yeah.
I'm sure I won't get crucified for that.
Right. So we Light will also display on screen a list of some of the other content creators in the community that are. We have some sort of we're working together, and we appreciate very much what they do. They don't really get anything out of it for the most part, except the pleasure of seeing our community grow. And in our podcast, we will always value, and we will always try to represent people that do things for the community, and that will try to spike the interest and help us all grow together.
Right.
Any of the four sentences there, any of the four people or websites or Twitch channels represented, they are very worth of your time, and we hope to see them thrive in the community. And by the way, make sure you don't miss the podcast next week, because we'll have a special guest, someone that is actually in beta and will be able to answer chat questions live. And it's someone that is much loved in the Warcraft community. So we will just tease you a little bit with that. So Light, we're going to say our goodbyes. It was a pleasure to do another podcast with you.
Yep.
I apologize for my voice, and I had to keep muting myself because I keep coughing. I hope it wasn't distracting or anything like that.
Nope.
Light, I let you finish our podcast today with some thank yous and whatever you like to say. And thanks everyone on my side for being here. And we appreciate your time. And make sure you are here next Sunday again at 5 p.m. UK time.
And 12 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. And please follow this Twitch, because it helps us a lot. And also remember, we have a YouTube. It's on YouTube as well, which the links will be here.
Right.
And if you are a competitive, friendly player, make sure you also check the link for our guild, Prisoners of War. And
Right.
thanks everyone. Have a good week, and I'll leave you with light, and all the best for you guys.
Yep, just like Spinner said, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for everyone who's followed. It's great. It helps us. It keeps us motivated, right? Especially since we're not in the beta. We're finding all this information by us digging, going through different channels, Reddit, Discords, websites, stuff like that. So anything helps. And yeah, it's been great. I think at one point we had 28 viewers, which is a new high for us. So that's pretty crazy. Wow. Yeah, pretty crazy. So yeah, it's humbling.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, and thanks for being active in chat and all the feedback. And if anything, if you have any feedback, any concerns as well, don't be afraid to message myself or Spanner. We're like glued to our phones apparently. So yeah, we're available whenever. So just thanks again.
Have a good Sunday, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
See you guys.